Welcome on in to another live and action-packed edition of the Between the Hashmarks podcast. As always, I'm Matt Lombardo, joined by my friend, colleague, mentor, and the purveyor of the Two Deep Zone. Mike Tanier is here, as he is each and every week. And Mike, as I said on the nightcap recap late on Sunday night, this really felt like a redemption Sunday of sorts across the NFL. But how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, but I heard a wild rumor that you were in the running for the Penn State job. Is this true?
Not officially in the running, but I will say this, if we wanted to just kind of get this out there. I was surprised but not stunned that James Franklin was fired, especially after losing 3 straight games, the last 2 as double-digit favorites against UCLA and Northwestern, of all people, of all teams. But I'll say this, James has always been really good to me professionally, as far as, as if I need a quote on a Penn State player in the NFL for a story I'm working on, always quick to reply. I did give him a lot of credit for what they built up there during his tenure. But on a personal note, always been really good to me and my family. During Penn State's pro day a couple of years ago, invited me into the office. We sat down, broke down practice tape, talked about football, gave some behind the scenes things that are happening with the program. When he found out that it was my father's first game up there, my dad and I share season tickets. When it was my dad's first game back, after suffering his stroke, which he's fine from, fully recovered from, but his first game back at the stadium, he texted me, said, "Hey, make sure your dad has a good time. Give him a hug for me." Always been gracious with my family, personally and professionally. So interesting mixed feelings there after the firing, but wish him and his family all the best going forward.
That's the part of this we don't often see when these coaches get fired. And sometimes we think, well, he had it coming, et cetera, but there is a human side of this. I always do like to say, though, and this applies to Brian Callahan as well, coaches at that level don't so much get fired as transferred.
Yes.
You'll be an offensive coordinator someplace else, defensive coordinator someplace else. 3 years from now, have another opportunity. And maybe it was time for a change at Penn State.
Yeah, I think that the last 2 losses, there was some apathy and certainly more than enough anger at Penn State to justify moving on. But it is kind of whiplash-inducing when you think about going to the college football playoff semifinal a year ago. You take a lead in double overtime against Oregon, the number 7 team in the country, 3 weeks ago, and then gone. It's just a whole new era of college football. A couple losses, and you got to start really looking over your shoulder.
It's funny because I was just texting back and forth with a colleague who will remain nameless. Okay, it was Jarrett Bailey. And he was talking about, Bills, the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills need to burn everything to the ground right now. They need to fire everyone. And he's where Eagles fans were on Friday morning. He's where I kind of was on Friday morning. But, I love the idea of the Buffalo Bills, perennial powerhouse, always in the AFC Championship game. Started the season one of the greatest comebacks in the world against a Ravens team that at the time still looked very good. Lose 2 straight, kind of have some stumbles. Let's fire everybody.
Get McDermott out of there, right?
Get McDermott and Brady, and I'm a little bit of a Brady skeptic. We get Brady out of there, and I forget the defensive coordinator's name off the top of my head. Get them all out of there and get Sirianni out of there, because as we all know, there's 300 fabulous coaches just working at Wawa right now, working at Royal Farms, waiting for their opportunity. When, Brian Callahan, he's available. Is that who you really want? To turn it around, I think we'll probably talk about the Bills a little bit. It was a rough Thursday night in Greater Philadelphia, not just the Eagles, but the Phillies. The Flyers, I think, lost too. It was absolute chaos. After this Sunday, it seemed like Armageddon for the Eagles. After this Sunday, the temperature check for Eagles fans, is everyone a little calmer? Not just because time has passed, but because everybody lost. The Lions, the Commanders, the Bills, everyone is lost right now.
Yeah, we're going to put a lot of these teams under the microscope. We're going to look into some of the upstarts who broke out. We're going to talk about the Eagles. A little bit of housekeeping first, if you will. If you enjoy Mike and Maye's rapport, and of course Mike's temperament and the ability to seamlessly weave superhero references alongside analytics deep dives at the Two Deep Zone, make sure you subscribe to the Two Deep Zone on Substack. You get walkthrough every Monday. It's my coffee companion each and every Monday after getting my daughter on the bus. I'll sit down and read, walk through. So make sure you subscribe there. If you enjoy my analysis and insider reporting, subscribe to Between the Hashmarks on Substack. You can check out the show on my YouTube channel at Matt Lombardo 975. And if you listen to this show on Apple Podcasts, click subscribe. Subscribe in the Apple Podcast Store. Leave us a 5-star rating and review. Those reviews really do help grow the show, make it easier to find. It makes it easier for us to get top marquee guests onto the show. And we'll read those 5-star reviews. Whatever you write, Mike and I will read them live on the show.
That's right. We are attention craved. We crave your attention. And it really does make a difference if you like seeing guests on here. I know definitely during the off season, it's great to get an old player in here. A lot of times you make the ask, they go look at the reviews.
Yes.
And they need to see a little something there, because it's like they get a lot of ask. They're going to go to the one that's got like 100 5-star reviews, not the one with less than 100 5-star reviews. So, help us out. If you enjoy the show, go over there. It's free for you. It means a lot to us.
And we really appreciate everybody checking in on the Substack Live. This has begun a lot of fun with the interaction with the people. We hope everyone's enjoying it as much as we are. Mike, I'm going to spin your question that you just asked me back to you. I'm going to give you the floor here, because I thought that Thursday night loss tore open a lot of the fabric of what had been holding a really rickety Eagles team together, with a lot of finger pointing, a lot of blame, a lot of questions, a lot of concerns going into it. But obviously after Sunday, you're right. I think the landscape has changed. So where are you at right now on the Eagles and on some of these other contending teams on the NFC side of the bracket?
The Eagles have problems to solve.
Yeah.
But many of the problems are emotional problems that could be solved with conversations, and the schematic problems that could be solved with, whatever you think of the offensive coordinator. Sirianni can put his foot down. Hurts and Brown can say, we want it to be this way. They can go back and fix this. These are fixable problems. I think what the rest of week 6 showed is there is time. There is time to fix it. There is no undefeated team running away with everything right now. So the Eagles will have that opportunity if they choose to take that opportunity. When I look at some of the other teams' losses, I say, well, they have problems. How solvable are those problems? Commanders will get guys back healthy like McLaurin. That's solvable. Lions, the injuries are kind of all over the place, but we know the Lions are good. They just lost to a really, really good team. Solvable. Niners, I have no idea. They might have an existential crisis right now due to injuries. Eagles don't have that existential crisis. They have to actually start talking to each other and start getting real about making things look the way they looked last year, the way they looked 3 years ago, the way they looked for the first 10 games of the previous year. They know what it's supposed to look like. It's the same people. They should be able to get it done.
Yeah, I think that what this does is it puts the microscope squarely on Nick Sirianni in a way that it probably shouldn't, for a team that, went to and won the Super Bowl last year and has been to 2 Super Bowls over the last 3. But this is not an unfamiliar problem for him. Coming off the Super Bowl loss against Kansas City, people in Philadelphia still have battle scars of that 2023 season, the 10-1 collapse, to losing home field advantage, to losing on the road in Tampa Bay in the playoffs in the span of 8 weeks. But the problem with Nick Sirianni is he's not the offensive play caller. He's not the architect of the defense. He's essentially the coach of the vibes. And the vibes are great when you have your 2,000-yard running back running behind the best offensive line in football and an opportunistic veteran defense that's creating turnovers and you're scoring off of them. It's easy to be the vibes head coach in that moment. But as we saw in 2023, when everything unwound and they wound up benching the defensive coordinator, Sean Desai, in favor of Matt Patricia, it did not go well for Nick Sirianni. They lost the room. They lost their footing at the top of the conference, and the tailspin began. I agree with you. They don't have the existential injury crisis that the 49ers have. They don't have the same concerns we're going to touch on with the Buffalo Bills, but they do have big problems that they can't seem to spring Saquon Barkley open. He's averaging 3.4 yards per carry. They do have big problems that even when they're making a concerted effort to get A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith involved, it goes through fits and starts throughout the course of a game. It isn't sustainable for 4 quarters or week to week. And it just seems like they don't know what they are. They need to figure out what their identity is. That falls on Nick Sirianni. And at least looking at this from my view, he now has about 11 weeks to answer that question and figure out what they are before you start looking around and thinking, okay, this has happened twice in 3 years. Is this the guy to keep the train on the tracks week in, week out, year in and year out?
The man is never off the hot seat. I haven't gotten an oil change since the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl happened within an oil change. Okay. But he's never off the hot seat. But again, I'm not saying things don't have to get done, but I think Sirianni would be given the order to bring in an offensive consigliere from the outside, from the Mike McDaniels or whoever will be available when the time comes. Were you caught off guard by Zadarius Smith's retirement?
Yeah, it kind of seemed out of nowhere, right? And that's what kind of triggered my brain back to that 2023 season, because that's the type of thing and the type of finger pointing you saw in that locker room. And let me just be clear here. I'm not saying that as we sit here on October 14th that Nick Sirianni is on the hot seat. But if they wind up finishing the season, under 500 or around 500 and just sneak into the playoffs, I think conversations at that point have to be had, only because he doesn't get to fall back on, hey, we have a top 5 offense and I'm the offensive play caller, or we lead the league in red zone defense when he didn't build the defense, right? And some of this has to fall on Howie Roseman, because some of the offseason moves and decisions have not worked out. Having Darius Slay instead of Kelly Ringo is probably a little bit different in that game, right? If you have a little bit better depth along that defensive line, you can withstand losing a Jalen Carter. I understand the long-term approach of salary cap management, but I think that they might not be as deep as maybe we thought they were going to be in some key spots as it's starting to play out throughout the course of this first half of the season.
Yeah, well, the injury rash at the edges is kind of like, well, you're going to be down to these guys. And then Zadarius Smith was like, I'm playing too many snaps or whatever he's thinking. So he nopes out. So that's one thing. At cornerback, it is like, well, the guy isn't there. The guy you think is out there isn't there. So you bring in Adoree Jackson and Ja'Cory Bennett. It's like, well, those are who you're going to bring in. And you have Kelly Ringo that you're trying to develop. And you drafted 2 guys. You can't draft 3 of them. So some of that is these problems should be solvable. They shouldn't be as big a problem if the offense is doing its job. But again, you can turn around and say, look at the NFC, look at the NFL.
Right.
The Bills are asking these questions right now. We talk about in Philly, the need for an edge rusher. The Lions are saying the same question they've had since February, who besides Aiden Hutchinson can get to the quarterback? And now Aiden's getting there 2 steps after the ball's out of Patrick Mahomes' hands.
Right. And if we're looking at the water bottle scenario, whether this thing's half empty or half full, only one division in football has all 4 teams over 500, and that's the NFC North, right? And you look at the NFC South, it's basically Tampa Bay and everybody else. As if we're being honest with ourselves and we weren't just trying to drum up preseason narratives, that's what it was always going to be in the South. I mean, you can make a case for the Falcons after that win last night, but I still love Tampa there. The flip side of that coin, and the glass being half full for the Eagles, is I don't know that anybody wants to or is built to win the NFC East right now, right? I mean, you look at the way Washington lost that game with an untimely turnover. We're going to touch on it a little bit here. They're 500. The Cowboys are 2-3-1, losing a game that they probably should have won based on paper alone in Carolina. And the Giants, they punched them in the mouth. Who knows how sustainable that's going to be with Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterbo, but it seems like the vibes are there. It seems like confidence is begetting confidence. Who knows if they decide to be buyers and go get a couple weapons, but there's no clear-cut favorite, in my opinion, in the NFC East, and the Eagles don't have the injuries that are causing the issues. It's just a matter of, can Kevin Patullo right the ship from a schematic standpoint, and can Nick Sirianni keep the locker room together? And it seems like the second part of that question is the most difficult task right now.
They seem like they're related questions, because if Patullo figures it out, then everyone's going to be fine again, because they've been through this before.
Right. And let's switch gears a little bit and talk about the game last night at Landover, Commanders and Bears. Are you buying into Caleb Williams being fixed? Are you buying into the culture change? Are you buying into any of it, or you're selling all of it?
It's funny because I get up and I didn't see the second half of the game live. I'm checking it. I'm going through the replay, and then I'm going through the reporting on it, and it's like, this proves that there's a culture change with the Bears. And I think I wrote about it. It's like, well, last year's culture was basically, this is a burning meth lab. So there is indeed a culture change from a burning meth lab where they're trying to throw the drug paraphernalia on the fire and maybe throw each other on and run in the other direction to, hey, we're a football team and we try. So there has been a culture change. I'm going to say that. As for Caleb getting fixed, that looked like every Caleb Williams game from last year. There were a couple of highlights. The biggest highlight was a guy misses a tackle on DeAndre Swift. And there was a lot of hold the ball, don't like what you see, run to the right, run to the right, run to the right, chuck it. Maybe it's complete. Maybe it bounces off a defender. Maybe you take a sack before you chuck it. So I don't see anything here that suggests there's forward momentum. It was a weird back and forth game where the Commanders kept fumbling in the backfield.
Right, and the fumble in the backfield, the giveaway at the end kind of opened the door for the Bears to go down the field and not that far, but kick the game-winning field goal. I will say this about Caleb Williams. I think there's still a long way to go, but I think you're starting to see incremental progress. I mean, the one play that jumps out to me is the scramble towards the end and having the awareness and the wherewithal to slide in bounds, forcing Dan Quinn to take the timeout. Situational awareness seems a little bit better. He's also not really getting much help from his receivers. I mean, there were a couple of really terrible drops. I think one was by DeAndre Swift. Well, it was the rookie Manungai, the running back. If he catches the one pass on third down, he's probably going 25, 30 yards because he's one-on-one with a linebacker. The other one was a third down drop by Alamadia Zacchaeus that would have moved the chains. I don't think he's getting much help yet consistently from the receivers. I think he's getting better. There's still a lot of room to grow. But I will say, it seems like there is not, if not a culture change already in place with Ben Johnson. I think it's starting to take root because it's not just the offense that's getting it done. They created 3 turnovers last night, and they turned them into 13 points, a touchdown, a field goal, and then the game-winning field goal. I mean, that's huge. If you can create turnovers, that's one thing, but I don't know if there's anything more potent than points off of turnovers because you're swinging possessions, you're swinging momentum on the scoreboard, you're determining at times, as last night, the outcome of the game. And it's not kind of fluky for them. They're +8. They're leading the league with a +8 turnover differential. So they're creating a lot of takeaways, and the offense is getting it done in a way that we didn't see Matt Eberflus and that defense do a year ago, and certainly not the offense take advantage of them the way that they are right now.
You know, I'll say this much. On the giveaway side of that +8, they're not giving the ball away. There's not a lot of gopher balls. There was like one turnover-worthy throw. Wasn't bad. You're not getting these sacks that lead to strip sacks. It's a more ball control offense. Maybe Williams hasn't figured all these things out, but it's not so much I'm going to go run back and forth 3 times and get stripped. That's helpful on that end. Defensive side of it, I mean, they're a team with a pretty good secondary and all. You got these come from behind victories. That was a pretty good one last night, but there were weird elements to it. It was an injury prone team. The previous week was that, who did they beat the previous week? Was it the Raiders? We're talking about the Raiders.
Went to Las Vegas and beat them. Yeah,
we're talking about the Raiders. Let's continue to gather information on the team because we can say all these things, but then if you say, well, what are realistic expectations for the Bears? We would probably both land on maybe they can squeak in as the 7th seed. And that's kind of where it was last year for much of the year. Maybe they can squeak in as the 7th seed. So I don't want to talk about progress or development or culture until there's here's the avenue to the playoffs. I still don't see that for them right now.
I think that what we're seeing right now that we didn't see a year ago is that the play on the field is validating the preseason expectations because, I had the Bears as the 7th, maybe pushing for the 6th seed in the playoffs going into this year. And I think that's kind of, if you just watch the games, it seems like that's kind of where this thing could be trending, especially going back to the thought process of there being no real complete and dominant teams. I mean, if they catch Detroit on a week where they have as many injuries as they did against Kansas City, maybe they pull off an upset there. If they can neutralize Micah Parsons and the pass rush the way that the Bengals somehow managed to do with Joe Flacco, a statuesque 40-year-old quarterback.
We can say this about every team in the NFL.
For sure. Right. For sure. But they weren't able to, they weren't built to do those things last year, right? I mean, there was no offensive identity last year. There were too many turnovers last year. The defense seemed to be giving up by the time they fired Matt Eberflus on Black Friday. I'm just saying that it seems like from where they were when we're talking about are they going to be a top 5, top 10 pick in the draft to playing like a potential wild card team, I think that's the incremental progress that they're showing.
I'll take that because again, they are no longer a meth lab on fire.
Right.
Absolutely not. Not only has that meth lab been like, they're now like a playground or something nice, a little coffee shop. They're no longer a meth lab on fire.
Yeah, and I think that if you're a Chicago Bears fan, you gotta like that, right? And going
Yeah.
into the trade deadline, Ryan Poles has been one of the more aggressive general managers over the last couple of years. He might not need to be so aggressive because he seemed to have fixed the offensive line. But if
Mhm.
you can go and get a receiver to add to that group, or you go and add a corner
Yeah.
or a linebacker.
You're going to add a receiver. I know DJ Moore got hurt, so maybe that's the opening. They have so many guys. And that's one of the things where you say, well, he hasn't been getting enough help. And yeah, there were drops and all. There are so many guys. You say, oh, we got a DJ Moore, and we drafted the kid out of Missouri, and we drafted Loveland, and we still have Komet, and we have Swift, and we have Odunze from last year. At some point, you got to say we're rolling with what we got. This is the investment.
For sure, for sure. Unless you keep getting all these drops that you've gotten over the last night, and you decide that you want to try to
Right.
elevate and be
Yeah.
more than a wild card team. But I think the one team that probably should be buying is the team that sparked this whole conversation at the top of the show.
Mm-hmm. The
What
Bills?
the hell was that from the Bills on Monday night in Atlanta? What the hell was that? The Falcons tried everything they could to Falcons that away
Yeah.
in the fourth quarter, and the Bills just decided, you know what, we're not up for capitalizing on those.
They tried to falcon it away at halftime, right?
Yeah.
It's like there was a missed field goal, right? And then there was diving for the pylon at 0-0-0. Like that could have been, and I don't know how much you want to put blame on anybody, but the Bills were getting the crap beat out of them.
Yeah.
They can't stop the run at all, and this is a problem because Aaron Schatz and I were talking on his podcast, and it's like, hey, you know what? Oliver is back, Milano is back. Problem solved in the running game. Oh no, it isn't.
No,
Oh no,
not
it
even
isn't.
close. Not even close. I mean, how much of this is Bijan Robinson though? Because you look at Bijan Robinson, one of the most elusive and explosive running backs in the NFL. I think that we want to talk numbers and explosiveness. You can talk to me all you want about Jonathan Taylor. You probably win that argument. But from a skill set standpoint and an elusive standpoint, and a guy who's going to kill you in the open field standpoint, I don't know that anybody's better in this league right now than Bijan Robinson, averaging 5.8 yards per carry. He's scored 2 rushing touchdowns. He's caught a passing touchdown so far this year. So as much as like for the last 3 weeks, we've kind of pointed to the Bills' rushing defense and said, hey, there's the weak link. There's what Brandon Beane might need to go and upgrade to the deadline. TJ Sanders is still out, so that's still a pretty big hole up front from a defensive line perspective. You played against Bijan Robinson. Is that the catalyst to make you pick up the phone and start shopping for defensive line help? Or what are you doing here if you're the Bills?
There's so many teams that have run defense issues right now. Like I go around the league and like our run defense, Eagles fans are worried about the run defense when Carter's hurt, certainly. And the Bills is top of the line. And I was watching this morning because I am a masochist. I hate myself. I was watching the Raiders-Titans game. Okay.
Why would you put yourself through that?
I guess I wanted to look and see just what it looked like, what finally got them to say, okay, Brian Callahan, this guy's got to freaking go. But Jeffrey Simmons of the Titans, I think like half the teams in the NFL who are worried about their run defense would be calling whoever this dude is who runs the Titans right now. He's got a goofy name. It's Bazinga or something like that. And like, what's it going to take? Because Simmons is out there being an absolute hobgoblin, doing everything he can to try to win these games. He's a veteran. He's like a tone-setting type of guy. Like the trade deadline, like this team is toast. Get him out of there. He's probably miserable. Talk to his agent. See if you can like help broker the deal here, because I think he would help a team like the Bills or about 5 other teams. The Lions could use another guy on their run defense or just somebody to eat up some blocks. I'm going to ask you another question though about the Bills. What is their offensive? I know I went on Brady last week. What is their offensive identity besides Josh Allen is good and therefore something win?
Yeah, you know what it should be? It should be funneling through James Cook. It really
Mhm,
should be because they're built to run the ball really, really well. But he's only had over 20 carries twice so far this year. He's
mhm,
averaging 5 yards per rushing attempt. He has 5 touchdowns. The
mhm,
identity, if you're Joe Brady, should be we're going to feed this guy 25 plus carries. We
mhm.
have a mobile quarterback that we're going to design play action concepts off of. They're going to lead into zone read runs with Josh Allen's mobility. We're going to create opportunities for the tight ends based off play action. It should be the James Cook experience, but it just
Mhm.
hasn't been. And, we can talk all we want about the issues up front and whether they should go and trade for a defensive tackle. I don't think you prime Clinton and Williams away from the Jets, trading to a division
That's another
rival.
good one. Yeah.
But I'd probably pick up the phone and see if I could get him for a second round pick. Hey, you're
Mhm,
rebuilding. You're not winning anytime soon. How about a second rounder to help put us over the top, right? I doubt it
mhm.
happens, but you have to make the call. They need receiver help because I think they were betting on Keon Coleman making a leap that he hasn't made. Khalil
Right,
Shakir is really nice after the catch. I don't think he creates a lot of separation on his own. But,
right.
but if you want to talk about what you need to do, it should be running the ball. And I think it should be working the phones, burning down the phone lines. Hell, call Howie Roseman about A.J. Brown and see if he really is available, if you can get him. They need receiver help up there because Josh Allen can't do it by himself.
Yeah, that's the one thing is I don't know if that wide receiver one is just hanging around right now. Like I look around like Jaden, Jalen Waddle. No, Garrett Wilson, you just paid him. That's like shut out the lights. Calvin Ridley, good God, no, because he'll show up and drop 4 passes in the AFC Championship game. You can see that going down the line. But
Are
Cook,
the Ravens dead? Are the Ravens dead enough that if
are
you
they?
call Bishotti that you could pry away a 1 year rental DeAndre Hopkins? Can you pry him away for a fifth round pick if the Ravens realize this just ain't going to happen this year? We have too many injuries on both sides of the ball.
I don't know. I somehow don't say it, but maybe he called for Jerry Judy or something like that. I don't know if he even helps because that's like getting a Mary Cooper, which is what they tried
Yeah.
last year. Um, Davis, the backup to Cook, also had a big run. He had a touchdown in that game. But to what you were speaking of, there was a sequence, I think it was like midway through the second quarter, where it's like, okay, hand off to Cook, hand off to Cook, hand off to Cook. They were doing their two tight end look and everything like that. I mean, 6 yards, 6 yards, 8 yards, whatever. Then they hand up to him once, okay, gain of two. And it was like, what do we do now? Let's try bombs and have scrambles and things like that. It's like, you just, do it until it stops working and then maybe do it one or two more times, etc. Because it's almost like clockwork where it's like, okay, uh, Brady's decided he doesn't feel like running the ball anymore, and Allen isn't sure who to throw to. And it seemed like Morris had their number yesterday. They're dialing up blitzes, they're doing stunts, and they're getting to Josh Allen. And that it shouldn't be that easy. It should not be that easy to stop the Buffalo Bills.
Right. And in fairness, they're virtually tied with the Falcons as the number one rushing offense in the NFL. So,
Mhm.
but is that just a testament to the identity not working? Is it not having enough creative concepts playing off of the rushing offense? And
Mhm.
that would fall on Joe Brady, not adapting, not evolving, not expanding? Or does it just come down to they don't have the personnel to do anything more than run the football. So if you take that away, given the injuries on defense, you're going to be outscored.
I refuse to believe it. I refuse to believe it. Like, there's no Shakir's a good enough ball player. Coleman brings enough to the table. Tight ends are good. It doesn't seem like that should be the case. I know they lost Palmer last night early in the game. It doesn't seem to be the case of just be like, well, we can't do anything. Not with Josh Allen, not with that offensive line.
Could you conceive a situation, a scenario where they trade for somebody like Dontavian Wicks? And does Dontavian Wicks move the needle enough? Because obviously Green Bay's seeing Matthew Golden emerge. You're going to get Christian Watson back maybe as soon as this week. That you have Doubs, who after I pegged him as a potential trade candidate, there's now
Yeah,
whispers that there could be an extension in the works to
right.
keep him and Watson and Golden as the big three.
Mhm.
Jaden Reed's going to come back from an injury in a few weeks with the ankle and the collarbone. Dontavian Wicks, does he move the needle enough to trade an asset to try to spark some sort of explosiveness into that receiving core?
He drops the needle. Dontavian Wicks. like, I know he hasn't been dropping passes as much, but he was like a non-factor in the game. Obviously, Golden has pushed past him. It's more of the same. He's just another Josh Palmer. Well, here's the guy with the tool from the other team. We got the guy who wasn't like, he was the reason Justin Herbert isn't really like reaching his potential. So we bring in Palmer. Hey, why isn't Jordan Love? Get Wicks, bring him in. I don't know if that guy is out there. If they make one of these trades, fine, I'll look at it. But again, it boils down to, hey, last year we're bringing Amari Cooper in. He certainly has something left in the tank. Hello.
He
By the way,
certainly did not.
he's available right now too, isn't he? He's just sitting on. He's having coffee with Odell Beckham Jr. somewhere, talking about the old days. So yeah, I don't know if I'm the Bills, like I'll bring in one other defender and just try to murder people on the defensive line, and then just play aggro ball.
And their problems might be gashed open even wider in 2 weeks when they come back from the bye, and you have world beater Rico Dowdle staring at you from across the line of scrimmage, and suddenly an offense that just wants to bash you over the head with the running game, and they're doing it well, and they're winning because of it.
Yeah, and I'm trying to figure out how. Rico Dowdle was a number 2 running back 3 weeks ago that no one gave 2 craps in the wind about. He was like, oh, Chuba Hubbard is hurt, but, go on your fantasy waiver and put a waiver in for Rico Dowdle. And now Rico Dowdle is Thanos. Okay, so I know his name is Dowdle. I'm just being, but how? What happened?
I think he looked at the schedule and he saw that they were playing the Cowboys in 2 weeks. And I think it pissed him off enough that they said, hey, go try to get paid. We don't want to pay you. That he decides, I'm going to take out some of these frustrations on the Miami Dolphins, 200-plus yard rushing game. And now I'm really going to take out my anger on Jerry Jones and the Micah Parsons list Dallas Cowboys. And he just runs his way into the record book. According to Next Gen Stats, I wrote this in the column on Monday, he rushed for 122 yards after contact, which is the most by a Panthers running back since Next Gen Stats came into being in 2016. And he now, over the past 2 weeks, he surpassed Christian McCaffrey for the most yards from scrimmage by a Panthers running back, beating Christian McCaffrey's record. He now has 473 yards from scrimmage over the past 2 weeks. This is a guy who decided, okay, I'm going to go and be a football player now. The opportunity is in front of me, and I'm going to go and become a franchise running back, or at bare minimum, a flavor of the month.
And let's be clear, he was very good in the second half of last season for the Cowboys, hence this anger. So he didn't come completely from nowhere, but he was just an afterthought in free agency. Also going to point out 3 offensive line injuries on the Panthers offensive line. So when you look at these things, you sometimes say, well, Bijan's phenomenal. Bijan did not come from nowhere. And they have a very expensive veteran, stable Falcons offensive line, which helps out in that regard. So that's part of it, just as the Eagles had the great offensive line. The Panthers have a lot of money invested in their offensive line. It's all in the IR right now. Austin Corbett and Martin and Hunt, they were all injured last week. So I'm looking at this statistically, and you're right, it's yards after contact. A lot of his breakaway runs. It's not a lot of broken tackles. He's just getting into the open field and going. It does help that the Cowboys cannot stop anyone, and the Dolphins don't like physicality. They would like to be playing volleyball or something like that. It's still so remarkable, but my question is, what's the expectation now? Are we going to take the Panthers and stick them next to the Bears and say they're in the 7th seed for the wild card? Should we put Dowdle in the offensive player of the year category, breakout player of the year? I think we just hand it to him. But like, what does this mean?
Yeah, I was watching that game. I have the 3 TVs here in the command center. There's always the two of the game on, one with Red Zone. And I had Cowboys Panthers on because I thought that this revenge angle could like shine through a little bit. I wanted to see what happened. And what I think is happening here is he gives Carolina a bit of an identity. Not just that he's going to be a sledgehammer like a Derrick Henry or a James Cook, but Dave Canales, head coach, did a really nice job getting him on some swing passes, on some screens, getting him the ball in space, not just pounding him up the middle, through the middle, right at Frank Clark and saying, hey, stop him. They did a nice job of kind of scheming up opportunities for Dowdle to be productive. And after the game, I looked at Pro Football Focus. Bryce Young, 10 of 10 passing for 125 yards and 3 touchdowns with a perfect 158.3 passer rating at moments in that game where they were trailing So when they were
Oh.
behind, Bryce
Hmm.
Young had some of his biggest and best moments of that game. So what did it mean? I don't know what this means as far as them threatening the Buccaneers in the NFC South or making a playoff run. But I think what it does is it gives them an identity. It takes pressure off of Bryce Young. Maybe we can all calling Bryce Young a first round bust if this keeps up. And it probably cools down the temperature if it was even going to warm up a bit on Dave
Hmm.
Canales because he has a little plaything and a weapon and a toy to build the offense around.
And he was always trying to build around a running game with Chuba Hubbard before. If you look at their running game, there are a lot of concepts in it. He used a lot of pulling guards, or he was using a lot of pulling guards. With the injuries, I think there's been less of that. And there is a lot of design to the screen game. So it is one of those offenses where when you see, God, we're getting gashed on screens. Well, they're a screen heavy team. They have offensive linemen who are very quick, like Aquanu, who's not the best pass protector, but will get out there and clock people in the screen game and on the outside running game. So part of that is design. And you're right. If it boils down to, well, this creates an 8-win team that like helps Bryce Young continue to like get out of the bust category and gets Ted McMillan involved and gets Canales to build things. That's a big win for the Panthers. That's a success for the Panthers. It's not a unrealistic goal for them to shoot for.
They have a mini bye this week playing the Jets, right? And then then they come home. They have Buffalo, so we get to see
Yeah,
whether they do anything to fix the running defense. Then you go to Green Bay. And Green Bay
right.
is going to be the challenge. Then you have the Saints at home, the Falcons, and the 49ers backup practice squad. So there's an opportunity here that you could pick off 3 or 4 wins just in the next month, right?
And just the conversation. Oh, the mini buy is the Jets. Jets Panthers are supposed to be, hey, this is the Jets' chance to get right. And maybe it still is, but like we in our minds, it's just like, well, here's the guaranteed win. Those teams are supposed to be on the exact same tier at this point, and they're not that. And then you get some of these. I'll say this: the Packers. There's going to be a moment in that Packers game. Dowdle off tackle slams into Micah Parsons. They get up on each other. I'm mad at Jerry Jones. No, I'm mad at Jerry Jones. And they push, and like that anger meter on the video game goes, and whoever anger meter hits the most, it's either like a run for 40 yards or it gets blown backwards. Very exciting. It's going to be the who's more pissed off at Jerry Jones ball, as we all expected, between Micah Parsons and the really angry man, Rico Dowdle.
I love the joke and walkthrough. Just another sales pitch for Two Deep Zone here. Why is Dowdle so pissed off at the Cowboys? Was it because Jerry Jones wouldn't pay him, or because Micah Parsons owed him money to be paid at the time of contract extension that never came? I fell off the patio chair reading that with the coffee on Monday morning. It was well placed joke by you.
Why are you the one who's so pissed off? Like, everyone's been mad for years. You're the one who's out there. No, 200-yard game. It's going to be me. Well, more power to you. Whatever motivates you, Rico, I will not stand in your way. Certainly not now.
It's certainly paying off. And we talked about the hot seat meter, the temperature being turned down a little bit on Dave Canales because of this. There's no more hot seat for Brian Callahan because there's no more Brian Callahan. I'm not
Ain't no more
see him no more.
You won't be seeing him no more. Leave the gun, grab the cannoli. Leave Cam Ward, grab the cannoli.
That's essentially what happened there. You in the outline wrote good riddance. Is there any reason to go any deeper than that on this firing? Because it just seemed like they didn't show progress last year. It was always going to be, hey, let's get him a quarterback. Okay, you got him a quarterback. Cam Ward hasn't shown any progress to no fault of Cam Ward. I think that Cam Ward's gifts shine through in that win late in the fourth quarter against the Arizona Cardinals. He just hasn't had opportunities for those gifts to shine through because the offense didn't set him up to. And there was no philosophy. There was no read. I think there's an organizational malpractice at play here. As I spoke to one NFL executive before the firing, do you think the Titans miss Mike Vrabel now, based on what's happening in New England? That maybe moving on from Mike Vrabel wasn't the move that needed to be made with an organization that was in chaos at that point in time. But that's kind of where I stand on it. But it just seems like this was inevitable, and it happened.
Yeah, he went out there and gave this sad sack Eeyore press conference where he started throwing Cam Ward under the bus. And when you're the coach who's never done anything, you can't throw the first round pick under the bus. You should know this. You should also know that like 67-yard field goals aren't a thing. A lot of things Brian Callahan doesn't know, despite being a legacy coach in the NFL. Good riddance. There was no sense of like, well, this guy has been wrong. So ready to move on from him. The question is, and it's always coolish to say this, who's next on the firing line for head coaches?
All right, next on the firing line, it's got to be Mike McDaniel, right? I mean, it has to be. And I'm not so sure, according to sources last year, how he survived Black Monday, and Chris Greer survived Black Monday in Miami in January. But I'd be shocked if he makes it to Thanksgiving. I mean, you have Tua Tagovailoa coming out in his post-game press conference and just throwing shade at the entire operation. Players
Right.
only meetings, the players showing up late and not taking accountability for a meeting that they called together. They need to call this meeting because there's no sense of expectation from the coaching staff. You said they want to avoid contact and want to avoid football. These guys are in their minds on the golf course or hanging out on South Beach 6 days a week. They just don't seem interested in the festivities of playing in the NFL. When that's the backdrop, how is Mike McDaniel not the next coach fired?
By the way, you think Tua called a players only meeting and no one showed up? And he was like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air in the empty room. Like, is it really a meeting, or did you just like, where is everybody? I'll just everything you say about McDaniel, true, but here we go. Ready? McDaniel or Gannon?
Ooh, he's on my list.
Right.
I have Mike McDaniel on my list. He's definitely not surviving Black Monday. Does he make it past Halloween? Because it's one thing to have a comedy of errors and you cough up a game late, but then to have your owner chop off your balls and basically call out the way you handled disciplining and calling out your running back who dropped the ball going into the goal line, that locker room's not going to respect him anymore. He hasn't done enough to command their respect as it is. And the Cardinals went out and they brought in they brought in Josh Sweat. They brought in Dalvin Tomlinson.
Yeah.
They drafted a couple of cornerbacks early. I wrote it in the preseason that they basically built this sports car. You know, some people build model trains in their basement. Other people work on hot rods in their garage. You know, they like worked on tinkered with this hot rod all offseason and said, hey, there you go, Jonathan, drive it. You know, take it all and open it up a little bit.
Right.
The defense has been terrible, and he's a defensive-minded head coach. I think one or two more losses like we saw over the weekend, and that should be all she wrote on the Jonathan Gannon experiment.
You're right, but I would just point this out. Dolphins, going back to the Dolphins at Browns, if they lose to the Browns with Dylan Gabriel at quarterback, that might be just the end for McDaniel. So because it's like, it's a mercy killer. Like, what are we even doing here? Because that's a 1-5 team, can't move the ball at all, has a good defense, et cetera, et cetera. But it's close. It's going to be one of those two. Brian Daboll saved himself for a month, so for whatever that's.
I think the temperature is cooled on Brian Daboll. I think that when you look at the way that they beat the Eagles, that they just went out and just punched them in the face repeatedly, and the vibes that you're getting off of Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterbo, and look, I think that Dart took some steps in that game. Eagles are banged up. We talked about, losing Quinyon Mitchell in the middle of that game. You talk about not having Jalen Carter, but he was efficient from the pocket. He ran when he had to. The team's responding to him. And when you're getting buy-in from the young players, sometimes that could be enough if you start picking off some wins like that to take a head coach off the hot seat and maybe get buy-in one more year.
Let's see what happens if there's like another Dart injury and it gets weird. That's the one thing Daboll could do, is like turn this into a "are you endangering this young man" scenario. But they're doing well. Team is doing phenomenal. Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah.
You wrote a bunch about like Jason Light and what he's done, the general manager for that organization.
Yeah, it's kind of remarkable what they've done, because you think about the top of their draft classes at the time. We'll scratch our head about Emeka Egbuka, and it's like, well, why did you just take Emeka Egbuka when last year you drafted Jalen McMillan, who's on injured reserve? You talk about giving all the money to Baker Mayfield, but you look at this week's game, no Mike Evans, no Chris Godwin, no Emeka Egbuka. Tigger obviously fired up about what the Buccaneers are doing, but no problem. There's the Taz Johnson for that, or there's a Caleb Johnson for that at wide receiver, and they both make big plays, touchdowns, explosive catches for Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers. They just seem to churn out bottom of draft class players that turn into star caliber contributors. And I spoke with an executive in that building on Sunday night, and he said, "quote that's our identity. It's next man up around here. That's what we're built on." And they seem to be not only saying it, but going out and proving it every week.
Right. And Bowles deserves a lot of credit, and his revolving door offensive coordinators have a lot to do with that. Light has a lot to do with it. He's one of the more, let's say, approachable general managers in the NFL, where I think a lot of us have met him over the years in different scenarios, and he comes across as unassuming. And it's not like, look at that phenomenal draft class, or look at what Howie did. He just traded 16 bags of beans and got A.J. Brown, or anything like that. But when Light grabbed, and it's the back of the draft class, the bottom of the draft class, and the incumbents who are still on the roster, who he signed as a restricted free agent or gave an extension to. And it's like, oh, that guy's still there. Oh, that guy's still there. There's veterans on the bench who are hanging around, these Sean Tucker type of guys. These unsexy moves. That's what impressed me. I wrote about that team for the Football Outsiders FTN. They pay the bills almanac. It's unsexy to be like, oh, we kept the core in place for another year or 2 years. They keep doing it. And that's a lot of what's sustaining them right now. Because through all these injuries, sometimes it's rookies. Sometimes it's a guy who's been there 3 years who's getting the job done for them.
Yeah, you think about getting Jalen McMillan and Bucky Irving in like the 4th or 5th round or later. You talk about having Rachaad White on hand really late. And you brought up Howie Roseman. I almost think that Howie Roseman excels at the top of the draft traditionally, which you're going to want to. You're going to want to hit on your first and second round picks every year because you're adding blue chip elite talent. But there's something to be said where if you're collecting multiple 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round picks on the cheap, we're way outperforming their rookie deals, and you continue to do that and cycle through it. That's how you kind of build a team that can withstand Mike Evans and Chris Godwin getting hurt. And you talk about bringing back guys. They re-signed Levante David when he was 34. He had a big interception that turned the tide of that game Sunday. That was a driving force in that win. He continues to make plays. They keep the band together every year. There's continuity there. And like I said, you've somehow turned future Hall of Famer Mike Evans and perennial All-Pro Chris Godwin into luxury pieces because Egbuka and McMillan and Tez Johnson and on, they just continue to step up and make big plays in big spots for you and help you win these games.
And this is a team that will get some of these guys back. Several of these guys will be back. I don't think Egbuka is supposed to be out for more than a few weeks. I think Mike Evans is going to be back somewhere along the way. Along the offensive line, they started getting guys back. You look at the end of their schedule, and let's assume the Panthers are just like tier C minus for real. They get them twice at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Like, what are we? I was trying to pull up the odds. I don't have the odds handy right now. What are we looking at? Obviously, divisions to division are going to win the division. I mean, NFC Championship game. We got a big test this week, by the way, because they faced the Lions.
They faced the Lions, but the Lions are equally banged up, as we saw Sunday night in Arrowhead. But you talk about the schedule. Like, there are a lot of prove-it situations for them, right? It's a prove-it situation to go back in Detroit where you won last year early on in the season. You go to New Orleans, you should be, touchdown favorite in that game if they continue to play at this level?
Yeah.
Patriots come to Tampa. By then, it's November, so it's a little colder in New England. We're going to touch on the Patriots in a few minutes here. Ain't going to be chilly. Ain't going to be not humid in Tampa Bay in November.
Right.
You go to Buffalo. You go to Los Angeles against the Rams.
That's hard.
So, I mean, if you go 4-3 in this stretch, you're already banking 7 wins, right? And you already have 7 wins banked away, and there's a chance we're going to be conference wins, maybe picking off Detroit, maybe winning in the division against the Saints, maybe picking off the Rams in Los Angeles, and then you get the reprieve Thanksgiving weekend against the Cardinals, another conference win. If the Eagles don't turn things around, if the Lions don't get healthy, you could be talking about home field advantage and a number 1 seed in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, it is vicious because it's at Lions, at Bills, at Rams.
Yes.
Like, those are three really nasty, nasty games in there. And at Rams, at Bills are back to back. You get past that, and let me throw it at you. Most wins in the NFL. Most wins in the NFL. You can get the Buccaneers at plus 450. But I'll give you another choice here. You can get the Buccaneers at plus 450. You can get the Colts at plus 750. The
I hate
Bills
to
are
do
plus.
this.
The Bills are plus 600,
Yeah.
and the thing is, look at the Jets and the Dolphins are coming up. But like right, give me one. Pick one.
I'm going Colts because of schedule. I'm going Colts because I
Yeah.
get to play the AFC South. I'm getting the Colts because I think that for as electrifying as Baker Mayfield has been, and he's probably going to win MVP, and he should be the leader in the clubhouse right here today. The brand of football with Jonathan Taylor and Tyler Warren and Daniel Jones not turning it over, that brand of football travels in an inferior division and an inferior conference, especially.
I'm contemplating placing the bet as soon as we get off the air here. And it's very tricky because that Bills schedule, you do have Chiefs, you have the Eagles in week 17. We're going to assume the Eagles have their act together and that the Bills, of course, have their act together. The Colts are very tempting if we're going for most wins because, first of all, you are sitting at 5-1, so you're banked. They got one Titans left. It's hard because the Jaguars are pretty good.
They are, but they also find ways to beat themselves, and they find ways to not be so succinct for 60 minutes or week to week.
Mm-hmm.
That was the 1:00 window game that I had on the main TV, and it just seemed like the drop passes, the Trevor Lawrence brain cramps, the big plays and busted coverages that you can't have against Jackson Smith and Jigba. All of those things came home to roost very quickly for the Jaguars, and it kind of knocks them down a peg or so, in my opinion.
I tend to agree. And by the way, I was watching on all the social networks as all of Trevor Lawrence's mistakes have been explained away. So don't worry, folks. Trevor Lawrence doesn't make any mistakes. It's always somebody not running the route precisely the way it was supposed to. Obviously, there's drops, et cetera, et cetera. And if it's a delay of game penalty, that's probably on Liam Cohen, even though it never seemed to happen when Baker Mayfield was getting the plays from Liam Cohen. Anyway, but that's me being salty, which I think leads us into our next segment.
Because listen, I spoke to an NFL executive on Friday about the New England Patriots, about Drake Maye, whether this is sustainable. And he told me flat out, quote, when I was putting together the scouting report for Drake Maye, I wrote down, he's the next Troy Aikman, unquote.
Oh, for fudge sakes. Okay.
You're starting to see some of that, though. I'm not going to put a gold jacket on Drake Maye just yet, but he's showing you the arm talent. He's dominating within the scheme of Josh McDaniels' offense. They're not asking him to do a lot of very difficult things, but they're showcasing the arm. He's thrown for over 200 yards in 6 games. He's thrown multiple touchdowns in 4 of the 6. He only has 1 interception. He's dominating, and he's being efficient out there. Your turn, sir.
When did throwing for over 200 yards become a standard of anything? The answer is when Drake Maye threw for 203, I think, against the Panthers, and we all started putting our little strings of impressive stats together to be impressed about Drake Maye. I'm not saying that Drake Maye is bad or that the last couple of weeks have not been very good, but I know you're quoting a source, so you just invoked Troy Aikman. But come on.
There's a long way to go here. There's a lot of runway between a solid month and Troy Aikman as a comp, right? But I think if we're just looking at traits and skill sets and big arms and, you're going to facilitate because, look, Troy Aikman without Michael Irvin and Alvin Harper and Emmitt Smith?
We're not going to litigate Troy Aikman. We're not going to litigate Troy Aikman here. I'm not mentally prepared for the litigating Troy Aikman, because what you're doing is now justifying Drake Maye. They say, well, Troy Aikman is, no, we're talking about a kid who impressive win over the Buffalo Bills, which Michael Penix also just did yesterday.
Yeah.
And wins over the Dolphins, Panthers, and Saints. And the Panthers win was the punt returner.
Yeah.
Okay, so what has happened here? Now, again, Drake Maye, very good ball player, developing well, is definitely in the conversation of young quarterbacks on the rise, which there should be a conversation about a group of them.
For sure, yeah.
But what we're talking about is the nationwide Patriots fan base that was built off of the Brady years and everything else like that. And the media escape saying, it's Drake May week, people. It's Drake May month, people. Get excited about Drake May. And I have no patience for it.
I can tell. I can tell that this is not sitting well with you so far. But I'm just going to tweak you a little bit here.
Okay.
Fifth in the league in passing yards,
Yeah.
1,522 yards. He's averaging 8.5 yards per attempt. When you talk about qualified passers, that's fourth in the league behind Sam Darnold, Lamar Jackson, who I don't know how he even factors in here because he's been out the last 2 weeks, Jordan Love. You look at passing touchdowns, 10 passing touchdowns. That is good for ninth in the league. Nice. And he has only thrown, I believe, 2 interceptions so far this year. So there's been a bit of efficiency with Drake May that we certainly did not see as a rookie. And as far as the passer rating goes, 112.2.
Passer rating. All right. Yeah. I mean, again, I'm not saying he's playing poorly. Okay, and I put him on the schedule for this week. You didn't bring him up. I put him on the schedule this week. Aaron had to put up with me yesterday, and he's the lifelong Patriots fan. Not saying he's playing poorly, and I'm going to also point out coming up for the Patriots, Titans. Okay, so we don't have I guess we get a Mike Vrabel revenge game against Dr. McCoy, who has taken over the Titans.
Titans win that game. Titans win that game. We're going to call the shot here. New coach theory. Theory. Okay. Hard to game plan for. You decide you're going to empty the clip because you have nothing to lose. You're the interim head coach. You want to kind of plant your flag in, hey, don't put together your hot boards just yet. I want to have a win that puts me in the conversation. And there is the added revenge with Mike Vrabel being on the other side. I'm calling the shot here. I'm calling the Tennessee Titans with an upset.
I love it. I'm looking up the points here, but it's like Mike McCoy is a doctor, not a bricklayer, and he is going to get 7 points.
I'm taking him. I'm taking the
I'll run with 7 points too. I'll take 7 points because at the very least I get like the moral victory there, and I'll take that to the bank. But like in theory, that should be a good. Let's say that should be a good statistical game for Maye against. They don't have much on defense. Then you get the Browns, a tough opponent that winds up just giving you 1,000 possessions, so you do well. The Patriots are either going to be 5-3 or 6-2. After that, they've got a easy schedule ahead. I'm not down on anyone. I'm not down on Maye. It's just ear splitting. It's ear splitting because I like look at the poise, look at this, look at that, look at the Saints. Look at the Saints. They got they got blown out by the Seahawks. Look at the Panthers. A month ago, Drake May, the Patriots lose to the Steelers, and there's no conversation. And I don't think, honestly, there would be a conversation if Josh Allen doesn't throw an interception late in the game against the Patriots. Then May is just another guy like Penix and Nix and these other young quarterbacks and Daniels who's coming back from the injury. But like, I feel like I'm in this world where it's like, well, you better pay attention to Drake May. It's like, I know who he is. Let's wait and see. You know who I knew who he was a couple years ago? Guy by the name of Mac Jones. You heard of him?
Doing some nice things in San Francisco. Came up small because there was no supporting cast. He was throwing to wide receivers 7 and 8 with linebacker 6 out there. How did Aaron take this, by the way? Because I know Aaron's a New England guy, Patriots guy through and through. Probably part of he might, if he's not the engineer driving the train, he's certainly in the front of the train, the locomotive driving this thing about Drake. How did he take your saltiness on the subject?
I'll back up and say also Mac Jones is basically a walking MRI machine at this point. He's dragging himself out there. So he does not deserve any slander with the effort he's making. Aaron A is really used to me. Like really used to me. Like he gets quiet when I go on a rant the way my wife gets quiet when she get on a rant. Like, But he also has the stats in front of him. And what Aaron pointed out and what he pointed out to me is right now the Patriots defense is not playing particularly well. And the Patriots' running game is not playing particularly well. It's been inconsistent. Of course, they've got fumble issues. It has been Maye and Daddy Diggs and Pop Douglas and the passing game. And like the DVO and everything backs it up, that part of it is playing phenomenally. And that's all true. And it's been impressive. And also it's been the Saints, Panthers, and Dolphins. And of course, he knows opponent adjustments. So they sit there and he recognizes that. But yeah, it comes back to the actionable reality. We'll see. I like the idea of the Titans upset, especially if I'm getting 7 points on it. But we'll see after that.
Browns at Patriots. Falcons at Patriots. Patriots at Bucks. Mini bye week against the Jets in Foxborough. At Bengals, who knows where Joe Burrow is going to be? Giants in Foxborough. Bills in Foxborough. Ravens Inner Harbor Dock Workers in Baltimore. Mini bye week in East Rutherford. Dolphins. Look, you have to, if they can pick off and handle their business and not trip up against either Jets game, against the Dolphins again, there's a real chance they're going to win that division. And if you win that division, you're talking about a playoff game.
They're not going to win that division. They're not going to win that division. They're going to win. They're going to make the playoffs. The Bills are going to pull themselves together. We are in the eclipse, in the shadow of a Bills upset loss. The Bills are going to win that division. The Patriots are going to win 11 games. Patriots are going to win 12 games. You listed it. This schedule is hilarious. Aaron said there was like one of the top 10 easiest schedules in history based on what the information we have now. That's great. Drake Maye will continue his development. He will have a lot of good games. Just everybody just stay calm. I'm calm. You can tell I'm calm, right? Stay calm. Okay? Because these things, they will ebb and flow. And we should be looking at how Drake Maye is developing, not doing things which I did see like Maye for MVP, which is something I actually saw.
That's silly. That's silly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's way premature.
Yeah, you see, this is what gets me like this, man. This is what gets me. Like, Drake Maye for MVP. Like, no. Maybe for Coach of the Year, maybe we can have that conversation. Take a deep breath.
If we're talking MVP, the conversation starts with Baker Mayfield. I mean, it absolutely has to after what he did on Sunday afternoon. But we've looked back a lot. We've put some upstarts under the microscope. We've done the vibe checks. Circle it game. What do you got?
I put the Eagles and the Vikings on there. Eagles are coming off of their mini bye. Vikings are coming off their bye. Everyone listening probably has a good handle on the Eagles' woes and problems. Vikings should be getting J.J. McCarthy back. And the big question is, what is J.J. McCarthy? What does it mean to get him back? They saw him out there have like a good quarter against the Bears and just get destroyed by the Falcons defense, which we now know is a little bit better than a typical Falcons defense. And then he got hurt. Who is he? If he goes out there as impressive, it's one thing. If he goes out there and lays an egg, what does that even mean for the Vikings? Definitely a lot of intrigue there and obviously playoff implications. That's my circlet game. What is yours?
Yeah, real quick on Eagles, Vikings. It's a prove-it game for both of them, right?
Yeah.
Because, it's we saw what Carson Wentz did with the comeback win across the pond over Dylan Gabriel and the Browns. Is J.J. McCarthy the upgrade in the long-term answer? Can we win on defense alone? Is Brian Flores' defense, which is going to have a chance to really tee off, if we're being honest, on a running game that can't seem to get going, a wide receiving core that's in disarray, and a quarterback in Jalen Hurts who, as efficient as he's been through his career, seems to be lacking confidence right now. But if you go out and you dominate and you pass for 325 and 3 touchdowns, and Saquon finally has that breakout performance, all of that talk we had at the beginning of the show about missing an identity and finger pointing, all that goes out the window if you do it against Minnesota.
Right. And one thing against Minnesota, great pass rush, great creative defense. The best way to attack a creative defense, particularly Flores, is to run directly at it. Because if you're going to have guys going back and forth at the line and getting ready to stunt and everything like that, you can get them with a direct, straightforward running game. Eagles used to do that. Eagles did that a couple of years ago against the Flores defense. They should be equipped to do that, even without Landon Dickerson right now. They should be able to do that against this team.
I have a bit of a bust-out circle game. I don't think you would have even had this on your radar.
Is it Patriots-Titans?
It is not. It is Giants and Denver Broncos. The Broncos riding a 2-game winning streak, fresh off throwing a sack party in the shadow of Big Ben. 9 sacks of Justin Fields, holding him to -10 passing yards. Caleb and Jim, who just checked into the chat, you had, congratulations, 10 more net passing yards than Justin Fields did on Sunday morning.
We all did,
Mike. Tigger did
we
too.
all did. Let's all celebrate.
I did. Yes, we all had more net passing yards than Justin Fields. Nick Bonito and the traveling defensive player of the year tour went international, sacked Justin Fields in a key spot. He has 8 on the year. I want to see, what does Jackson Dart do against that defense? It's one thing to light up an Eagles defense that's banged up in prime time, throwing to guys like Lil Jordan Humphrey and some dude named Jalen Hyatt. It's one thing to succeed against that defense.
Yeah.
Can you do it with a in-progress-ish offensive line and that Broncos pass rush coming at you? And if you're the Broncos, I want to see Bo Nix throw the ball around. I thought you'd see it against the Jets, never really materialized. I want to see some of those weapons really step up. You know, I've been high on Denver dating back to free agency. I put them in that 2024 Commanders realm. I think they're starting to play like that. If you're going to be that team, you certainly show up and are that team in a game you should win against the Giants. So show me something, Jackson Dart. Show me something, Bo Nix and Broncos offense. I'm kind of looking forward to this one.
I have a funny feeling that Bonito and the defense are going to carry them. And while you might see a lot from the Broncos defense, you're still not going to see much from the Broncos offense. Because if they feel like that they can win turnover ball, Sean Payton's just going to be like, okay, Bo, throw it in the flat, hand it off. 13 points won't cut it. Not this time. No, but the Giants secondary, besides Flott, is nothing there. The Eagles should have shredded it last Thursday night. And maybe this is a chance for Sutton and Mims and the other guys who actually do that with Nix triggering it.
Evan Ingram revenge game. Mark it down. Evan Ingram breakout homecoming game. I believe the game is in East Rutherford, but it's a Evan Ingram revenge situation.
He's been gone for like 9 years. He's still mad. I love it though. So if Rico Dowdle can be mad, Evan Ingram can still be mad at the Giants for some reason. Let's do it. He was there with Coughlin, wasn't he?
He was there with Coughlin. He was there with Shermer. He was there with Joe Judge, and then he went to Jacksonville.
Right. He was there with Victor Cruz. What do I got coming up? Well, I got the vibe checks right now.
Yes.
On the 2 Deep Zone. You can go see all 32 teams. Really was a chance to talk about last night's game, talk about some of the coaching quotes that have been coming out and the Tua quotes and crazy stuff like that. Check all that out. I am working a little bit right now for late in the week, and I'm not stalling on purpose here. There's something in the air tonight. The star's so bright. A new quarterback in the college draft class. I'm talking about Fernando Mendoza. And I was a little glib dismissing this guy a couple weeks ago. And I'm actually doing the actual film work. Talk a little bit more about the quarterbacks in the draft class. Something I don't usually do in October. I'm going to be doing that late in the week.
Very timely. In my conversation with an executive Friday, he mentioned that he's the best quarterback in this draft class, really leaps and bounds above guys like Cade Klubnik, Drew Aller, Arch Manning. Aller, who knows what's going to happen there after the season-ending lower body injury on Saturday afternoon. But Figueroa is just lighting it up, and his draft stock from people inside the league is soaring. So you have this coming out at exactly the right time.
I know, it's exciting because, he really crushed against both Kennesaw State and Indiana State. I'm going to try. No, he had a big game.
He went into Oregon and won the game.
Yes,
Let's be clear about this. He went into Autzen and won the game. So let's not dismiss what he's doing right now.
I know. I'm going to be putting aside my obvious saltiness and skepticism and doing the work on this young man, Fernando Mendoza. Remember the name.
Awesome. Coming up this week, next couple days, I'm going to be listing. I have this turnover idea that's rattling in my brain. Okay. That turnovers matter so much to contending teams. We're going to profile the turnover kings in the NFL. top 5 in turnovers, defensive players, what they're doing, the impact they're having on their team, how sources inside the league view them individually as players. Looking forward to getting that out there. And then on Friday, it's the weekly mailbag. Fire off your questions. I'll give you my take. I'll pose those questions to NFL executives, coaches, scouts, agents, former players, and get their thoughts on the biggest storylines that you want to know about at Between the Hashmarks on Friday.
Sounds fantastic. And folks, if you're watching, send Matt your questions. He does a weekly mailbag. I do like a monthly mailbag. Send them out. Matt will run them past experts, insiders, give you their thoughts, give you his thoughts.
He's Mike Tanier. Make sure you subscribe to the Two Deep Zone on Substack. Follow him on Blue Sky at Mike Tanier. I'm Matt Lombardo. You can follow me on Threads at Matt Lombardo NFL. Blue Sky, it's just Matt Lombardo. Subscribe to Between the Hashmarks on Substack. And if you're a fan of the show, if you enjoyed the live conversation, we love doing these live podcasts every week. If you're on Apple Podcasts, please go ahead and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star review. They are instrumental in growing the show. We really do appreciate them. And we'll read them next week. If you want to rip us and make fun of us, we'll read them. It'll be your moment to shine. And ours not to. Mike, this has been a ton of fun as it always is. Thanks everybody for checking in, and we'll talk to you next week.
See everybody soon.